This is an abandoned quarry which I bought for $1 million. Today we will see whether we can find something valuable or will remain in the minus. First of all, I want to say that the result will surprise you. Subscribe to the channel and let's get started. We were already fully ready to leave for the meeting place, so just in case we decided to take a platform with us. In case in the quarry we managed to find something interesting that would need to be transported. In addition to this, we loaded a small excavator so that if necessary we could dismantle possible blockages, and also prepared a truck into which we could load all the trash, stones, debris, and other things that would interfere with passage. To make the work go faster and more efficiently, I hired 2 drivers who helped me deliver all the necessary equipment directly to the quarry. As soon as we arrived at the place, we were immediately met by the owner of the quarry. We had previously agreed with him on a sum of $1 million. After I paid for the purchase, he warned that the entrance to the quarry was blocked by large stones and that we would first have to clear the road. Having said this, he left and we were left alone. I immediately set to work. First, I moved all the equipment to the side so that it would not interfere with the passage of other vehicles. After that, I went to the very entrance to see with my own eyes what exactly the situation was there. It turned out that the road was completely covered with large stones that had broken off from above and rolled straight down. There were indeed very many stones. They were of different sizes, from small to huge boulders, and it became clear that it was impossible to manage without special machinery. It was good that we had foreseen this in advance and had brought the excavator with us. I immediately ran to the platform, unfastened the locks that held the excavator, and carefully lowered it to the ground. After that, I went straight to the place of the blockage. Driving up, I set the supports so that the excavator would not accidentally overturn, and brought up the truck with the trailer into which I planned to load all the stone. I carefully drove backwards, moved the trailer closer to the excavator, and now it was possible to get to work. With light movements of the bucket, I began scooping up stones and pouring them into the trailer. Some of them were quite large, and it turned out to be very difficult to take them with the bucket, but I still tried and managed to load several huge stones. The other boulders I decided simply to drag to the roadside so that they would not interfere with passage. Gradually, I moved the large and small stones further away from the road, and it became clearer. After that, only gravel remained, which also lay right on the road. I decided to drive and change the bucket for another, designed specifically for bulk materials. With such a bucket, scooping up gravel was much easier. It picked up even small stones perfectly. I gradually continued loading it into the trailer, and soon the entire road was completely cleared. After finishing the work, I moved the truck with the gravel away, as well as drove the excavator to the side so that they would not disturb us anymore. Now it was possible to move further and inspect the quarry. When I finally got there, I saw that it was really huge. Once they had mined a lot of different resources here, but one day an earthquake occurred and half of all the equipment was simply buried under the ground, and the rest could not get out since the road was completely blocked. My attention was immediately drawn to a wheel loader sticking out of the ground. It was heavily covered with earth, and besides that, it had turned over right onto its roof. I understood that even if it could be retrieved, the price for it would no longer be anything like that of a new one, or even a used one in working condition. Most likely, it would not start either. But money is money, and even such a loader could bring profit, which meant it would certainly not be superfluous. I ran again for the excavator, attached the digging bucket, and headed to the place where the loader was. I began gradually digging it out of the ground. After some time, I still managed to get the machine out. By my estimates, for it one could get approximately $50,000, which for a start was very good indeed, but I was not going to stop there and decided to go deeper. to see what was at the bottom of the quarry. Not far from the entrance, I saw another loader, much more massive than the first. Apparently, it had been used for heavier work since it had a reinforced bucket. It was standing with one wheel right on a rock, and when I climbed into the cab and tried to start it, it turned out that the machine was completely non-working. However, considering the rarity of such equipment, I think that for it, one could still get about $100,000. Continuing the inspection, I approached two hangars. Near them, I noticed a rather large excavator, which was standing right among the trees, because of which it was hard to spot. To my surprise, the excavator was not completely broken. I even managed to start it. I tried to move the boom, and it turned out that everything worked perfectly, including the cab lifting system. I carefully drove out of the thickets, and inspecting it more closely, realized that it was an expensive hydraulic material handler. Usually, such equipment is used for reloading mined ore or loading it onto dump trucks. The price of such a machine on the market can reach approximately $500,000. This find made me very happy because it alone already allowed me to recoup the purchase of the quarry by more than half. Then I decided to look inside the first hangar. Right at the entrance, I saw a large bucket, which was perfectly suitable for the found material handler. Its cost was approximately $20,000. A little further stood a platform and a beam. I think for them one could get about $5,000 since they were in excellent condition. On the other side of the hangar, I noticed a small excavator. At first glance, it was very battered, all scratched and rusty, but when I sat in the cab and checked the engine, it turned out to be almost like new. Apparently, it had been restored not long ago. The cost of such an excavator would be about $100,000. I opened the second hangar with special interest. Immediately, my eyes fell on a huge wheel loader, very similar to the one we had recently retrieved from under the blockage. Its condition was surprisingly good. Outwardly, it looked quite decent, and when I sat inside, I realized that the machine was almost like new, only slightly dirty and worn after heavy work. For such a loader, we can get approximately $200,000, which is simply magnificent because thanks to this we had already almost recouped the cost of purchasing the entire quarry, and this was only the beginning. Not far from the entrance, right in the forest, I noticed something bright yellow and rather large. Running closer, I realized that in front of me was a huge machine. At first, I thought it was a quarry dump truck, but instead of the usual body, it had an enormous tank installed. Looking inside, I understood that it was a real fuel tanker, which had been used to refuel quarry dump trucks and other heavy machinery right on the spot. In addition, it turned out that it was completely filled with diesel fuel. The capacity of such a machine is 50,000 litres, and all this fuel we could sell for a considerable amount of money. It turned out to be completely operational, and I managed to carefully drive it out of the thickets. I think the value of the tanker itself is about $150,000, and the fuel inside it could additionally be sold for about another $50,000. This find made me very happy, but I did not linger and continued inspecting the quarry. In the center of the quarry, I noticed a small lake, and nearby, right in the bushes, there was another dump truck. I climbed into the cab and tried to start it. Luckily, it turned out to be completely operational. I carefully drove it a bit further from the water so that it would not accidentally roll into the pond. Inspecting the machine more closely, I realized that it was an articulated dump truck, specially designed for transporting materials along difficult routes and off-road. Thanks to its all-wheel drive, it had excellent passability and a very strong construction. The price of such a dump truck is about $250,000, which, without a doubt, is also an excellent result. Running further, I noticed that right from the pond, a metal boom was sticking out. Coming closer, I understood that it was a sunken excavator. It was almost completely covered by water, and it was impossible to retrieve it without special equipment. Not far from this place, I came across a huge pile of ore, next to which there were two machines. It turned out that they were rock crushers. Large stone blocks had been loaded into them, and at the exit, small gravel came out. I tried to start one of them. It started up easily and turned out to be fully operational. The second machine, however, did not respond. Its engine was faulty. Nevertheless, even for both rock crushers together, we would be able to get about $150,000. On the other side of the ore pile stood another large dump truck. In size, it was almost the same as the previously found tanker, only instead of a tank, it had a dump body. The machine was already heavily worn, but still I managed to start it and even drive it a little. This dump truck was known for its high productivity and efficiency, which is why it is still used in quarries for transporting large volumes of materials. Its market value could be approximately $140,000. Next to it, there was a stone processing plant, which, judging by everything, had not worked for a long time. Under its walls stood several metal barrels with fuel. Of course, they would not bring in a large amount, but still for them one could get at least a few $100s. Walking around the plant, I came across a truly gigantic machine. It was twice as large as the previous dump truck, and in height almost reached the roof of the stone processing plant. To give you an idea of the scale, just one wheel of this giant was twice as tall as me. The carrying capacity of this machine was almost 300,000 tons. I immediately wanted to get inside and look at the cab. Finding the ladder, I climbed up and ended up in a spacious cab. It was quite cozy there. Trying to start the engine, I realized that the fuel tank was completely empty. Then I remembered that we had the found tanker. I immediately ran for it, drove the tanker up, and completely refueled the huge dump truck. After that, the engine started without the slightest problem. I carefully drove this giant out from under the trees. The machine simply amazed with its dimensions. Its approximate cost is $150,000. At this point, we finished inspecting everything that was at the very bottom of the quarry and decided to climb a bit higher. Climbing up the slope, I noticed another dump truck near a large rock. This time, it was much smaller and, moreover, very worn out. Its price would be approximately $70,000. A little higher, I found a small crawler loader which was stuck in the bushes. It turned out to be completely operational, which meant it could be sold for approximately $80,000. Walking further, I saw a cab sticking out of the ground. It was equipment that had been buried during the landslide. With the help of the recently found loader, I began to dig it out. After some time, I managed to retrieve a huge wheel loader. Of course, it was in non-working condition after such a long stay underground, but even so, it could be sold for approximately $70,000. Nearby, I again noticed machinery half sticking out of the ground. It turned out to be a small dump truck. I also managed to dig it out, and I think that for it one could get about $50,000. A little further in the ground, I saw a boom sticking out. It was another excavator. I also dug it out with the help of the loader. Its market value should be about $150,000. With this, the search for machinery in the quarry was finished. Now it was possible to proceed with selling it. I also decided to call a crane to help pull out the excavator that had sunk in the water. While the crane was on its way, I returned to our truck. First of all, I decided to take the biggest machine found in the quarry, that huge dump truck. I carefully drove it onto the platform, fastened it with strong straps, and began slowly driving out of the quarry. Despite the weight of the machine, our truck turned out to be powerful enough and coped with the task. After that, I headed to the store. Arriving there, I carefully unloaded the dump truck and went back to the quarry. By that time, the crane was already on the spot and ready for work. I got into it, went down to the pond, unfolded the boom and carefully hooked the sunken excavator with the hook. Gently lifting it, I moved the machine onto flat ground. Now everything was ready for further transportation. After some time, I managed to transport the last found loader. As a result, we were able to collect in this quarry a huge amount of various machinery, from small excavators to simply gigantic dump trucks. Without wasting time, I immediately started selling them. First, I sold the cheapest machines, and then the most expensive ones. As a result, our balance amounted to a little more than $3 million. This was simply amazing because we managed to earn as much as $2 million of profit from this quarry, and also got at our disposal a territory where we could mine and sell ore. And if you like this video, put a like, subscribe to the channel. Bye everyone!